Welcome to another Tuesday Talks with Toomey. This week's a little bit different. I just got back from the IDN summit in Orlando and out of studio. But I wanted to touch on several things that happened last week. If you were there, you got to experience some great talks from IDNs, GPOs, colleagues. I'm sure you got to do a lot of good networking and meet new people and connect with old friends and colleagues too. That's what that meeting is really truly all about. Uh, but if you weren't there, I wanted to provide some insights of what I learned while I was there and what was some of the most common things that I had conversations around. Really hit home for why to attend these meetings. And yes, the sessions are fantastic and learning from different people and their experiences. And of course, the keynote speakers are always so motivating. But it's the conversations that happen outside the walls of the meeting time, right? What happens in the hallways, having coffee at breakfast, social events. And there were some really good ones there this year that I thought really opened my eyes to just how important it is to understand on structure when it comes to our GPO and IDN contracting. So a little bit of recap of the meeting. 4 great days of sunny Florida. And really it started off with a great panel, learning about how to navigate the meeting, what the expectations should be, how you should think about your contracts. And we got to hear from thought leaders from all of the major GPOs. We really talked about new innovative programs that they're working on, how important data is to them, and how they can help create pathways for new companies, new product technologies, or really find ways to improve supply chain, having guaranteed inventory strategies. After COVID, things really changed, right? Think about it, value analysis, supply chain, contracting. That's where everything lives and breathes now. And that's why having a good, strong IDN and GPO contract strategy within your company is so important. It's important to marry that up with what's happening at their level, at the hospital level, at the GPO level, the contracting level, right? And at your level. And in finding that parallel between them to talk all on the same page is something that I think I talk about week in and week out. So some of the great topics I think are very relevant today is AI. Came up quite often. How can AI be used in the hospital? How can it be used in the supply chain? How can it be used within your marketing opportunities that you're doing? Of course, tariffs. Tariffs was a big talk. It's hard to answer that question, especially at that time where an answer hadn't been rolled out from our government yet, and President Trump had not told us what he was planning on doing with some of these tariffs. And there's still some to be determined. I think that we're waiting to hear from administration. But until then, we have to push on. We have to remember that we're still here to provide a purpose, and that's to take care of the patients in the hospital. And that was a very good common message there was, listen, come talk to us. Let's figure this out together. Be a partner, but let's do it together and do it the right way so we don't jeopardize your company, your value, but also jeopardize the patient, which ultimately is what we're all here to do. So that was some of the key things that I think I took from a couple of the meetings I was at. We've got to be persistent. We have to keep engaging. You're not always going to get an answer. You're going to have to keep asking. And one of of course, the key highlights of the meeting is at the IDN Summit, the Reverse Expo, right? And getting to talk to, I think this year there's over 1,700 attendees at this meeting, which is one of the largest, which shows you people are very interested and involved in trying to figure out how to navigate contracting and who's the right person to talk to. In these meetings, you're not going to get the PO, but you're going to get the lead. You're going to get the pathway of how to get it, who's to talk to. And remember, they've talked to hundreds of people too. So if you were there and you're frustrated because you're not getting the answer right away, I've been there so many times. Even just a couple weeks ago, I was at a previous conference, right, at the Federation in DC. Had some great conversations, had some follow-ups. 2 of them I thought were the best ones I thought I had, and I haven't gotten the answer back yet, right? But I have to be persistent. I have to be different. And I have to always remember what my value prop is. What is the company I'm representing's value prop, and how do we get that up to the front of the line? You don't have to be, quirky. You don't have to be funny. You don't have to be overly unique and cutesy. You have to get right to the point with what your value prop is, what you're providing to the patient, to the facility, to the hospital, to the savings, and how it all ties together. And there's an easy way to do that message. if you're dialed in and understanding what their expectations are. So at the IDN Summit, or the Reverse Expo, I think there was a lot of good engagement, good conversation, and that was the big highlight of of the event. Other than the fun activities that they always put on, but if you haven't been, really should consider going. If you miss it this year, we'll talk about a little bit later today, as there's plenty of other opportunities to network and understand how to navigate these things. So with that, I would say that there was some key opportunities to talk outside of those meetings, and that's something I really wanted to touch on today. And as Tuesday Talk with Toomey's has been hitting, I think, big topics around navigating GPO and IDN contracting, hurdles in the market, that we hear. It really was kind of validating to meet people that I've never spoken to before, introduce myself, in conversation, or someone recognized MedBridge Advisors, right, and wanted to have conversation around their struggles or their strategies. So I thought I'd share the top 4 most common conversations I had outside of the walls of the meeting space, right, outside of the summit, reverse, outside of the breakout sessions. But number one I had was around IDN GPO structure. Who's engaging the GPOs? Who should be engaging the IDNs? How often? How do we align our sort of resources together when we only have, so many reps, so many regional managers, and so many IDNs, and so much budget to make this happen? And I think the same message that I give is you have to be parallel. You have to find a way to draw that line between your GPO, IDN, and sales team, and they have to be aligned in the strategy, in the conversation, and the call points, and who's going to take lead. There's more often enough in these conversations, I found that the regional directors and the IDN directors don't talk very much. That is an absolute number one way, in my opinion, to have disconnect in the sales team to your IDN strategy to try to break through to that health system, whether calling on the GPO and RPC or the IDN itself. If you're not aligned in the strategy, you're never going to get engagement from the bottom. You're never going to get engagement from contracting. You're never going to understand the value analysis process, and you're never going to understand the supply chain piece, how important it is to them, and who they work with through distribution, self-distribution, and be able to tell that story. So when your time actually comes to present to the contracting team in value analysis, you've got it all buttoned up. You've got it all on the same page, and you've got your champion built into the story who's present in those meetings, and your contracting team who knows exactly your value prop, exactly what you're bringing to the table. So that was number one. Number two, we have a contract. We have several contracts. We're not getting the penetration that we want at the GPO level into the, with the GPO to the contract level, to the contracting teams at the IDNs within the health systems. And this is one that I think is important to understand how your GPO works, right? You might have one contract, you might have 25 contracts. In how engaged are you with your GPO manager, right? How engaged with them are you outside of the conversations? Are you bringing conversation back of positive things? Hey, we won this account. Here's why we won the account. We're having trouble with this account getting through. We've tried, a layer of communications. We've tried, they won't see our rep. How can you help us get in front of the right, whether it's the, regional director, the field sales, or whether it's someone that they can call or they know. But you build that relationship there, and they're going to help you navigate. They're going to help you celebrate the wins, and they will celebrate that out to the team internally. And they'll also help you navigate maybe some other channels you could try within the GPO. Programs they offer with special buys or marketing or promos or getting in front of clinical teams. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a GPO meeting and I've asked questions around like, well, how would I navigate my contract when I'm trying to introduce myself to a region where maybe I don't have a strong rep or maybe I don't have much coverage. And I really want to get the masses out to the different regional managers and field sales services. How can I connect those dots? And at that time in those meetings, not only did they give me ideas, but they also asked me how long I was going to be there in the office. And they would ping their coworker and say, hey, I'll tell you what, if you can hang on 45 minutes, you can have a meeting with Joe Smith, and you guys should talk about this exact thing, and he can help you, right? But you're there, you're present, you're asking, you build that relationship, and you help move on to someone else within that GPO or RPC or even within the IDN that can help navigate that for you. So that was number 2. I have a contract. I'm struggling with some contracting penetration. How can I get through to them? Number 3, strategy and direction. Right? How to position myself better when there's committed programs, there's all these different things within the GPO I just don't understand. And I want to win an award. I want to be on the committed programs, or I want to be sole source, but I just can't quite navigate all of these channel conflicts that I have out there. This is the one that everybody wishes that when I get the GPO contract that I just start seeing sales and I automatically get attention from everybody, right? There's thousands of contracts, billions of dollars in spend. And how do you stand out? And you might only have in your contract, I've had contracts I manage with $500,000 in spend, right? And it's how do I get attention in this little category or in a category that I'm a small player in and there's some, very big, well-established incumbents. But what I'll say is it goes back to your value prop, right? Did you write your value prop the right way? Are you utilizing your value prop the right way? Does your sales rep and your IDN team, right, your GPO team, regional managers, do they know your value prop? And how do they consistently manage that and talk through that with your customer? Getting your story out, right? That's the simple part of the sales. But on the contracting side, it's taking those experiences that you're having in the field and utilizing that there and where your value is in savings, patient safety, patient outcomes, or what can you be doing within the hospital that can help drive safety measurements, savings, right, for those better patient outcomes, and how can you get more engaged? Let them tell you how you can get more engaged as well. All that builds up over time, and if you're trying to get the bigger contract, you need market share. Before you get the market share, you need market awareness. So think about that. Where can I get my market awareness, and what am I doing to make sure that my value prop is written, that's very easy to understand, and that it catches on because you're hitting home with a true problem? Get your market awareness going, then get your market share, then you get your real shot at winning these larger committed type programs. And the last one, which probably is no surprise, but a lot of conversations around the IDN, around the tariffs, the taxes, fluctuating costs. How do I survive? How do I protect myself in this world when I know that I'm going to be losing costs, or I'm going to be losing ground when it comes to profit, right, et cetera, the important parts. So what I'll say is, a quick story. I was sitting in a restaurant once with myself before a meeting started. Sitting next to a guy. He ended up being a doctor, and we were just talking about, he owned surgery centers and some private practice. We got talking about what we did, and he was there for a completely different conference than I was, and it was kind of around a time of all these raising of taxes, and with costs going up and import taxes, containers, all that stuff, right, during COVID. And he was having trouble with what we know when it comes to labor and shortages and people, leaving and having to pay more for salary and rising cost. And he just, he never know why. And I asked him, I said, have you ever asked your supplier why they're raising the cost? Like not just because of, we noticed containers that are increasing, but did you ask them where it's all coming from? Did you ask them for a breakdown? Did you ask them to sit down and say, listen, I'm taking a 30% price increase this year, and here's where it's coming from. And one of the things that we did for, our customers, we sat down with them and said, listen, I'm actually taking probably a 40 or 50% price increase, on these certain products. I'm asking for 8, 9, 10, 3, whatever your company may be asking for. But here's let me show you where my shortfall is coming because of all these changes. And we would walk through it. Right. So in this conversation, I explained to him how we would sit down with our customers and go through that. And he sat back and looked at me and he goes, I had no idea. I had no idea containers were $20,000, $30,000 at the time. He's like, I had no idea Mexico was raising labor rates. I had no idea that China was raising, their labor rates and taxes and imports. He's like, He's like, I never really asked these questions. I just knew what I heard in the news, and I was getting frustrated. I was just taking advantage of it, right? So the point of that story is there's never going to be a right answer, but you have to have the conversation. You have to sit down and say, realistically, I have to find a way to stay in control of my business. If I lose too much profit, I have to take it out of somewhere, and that could be quality, that could be supply, right? We don't want to have shortages. We don't want to have product issues. We want to make sure that we're taking care of the patient. If I can't get something changed over here, what can I change in another contract? What can I change in a term? What can I change in a fee? Something that helps reduce a little bit so that I can find a balance to stay in the type of business I'm in right now and stay strong. And you might be in a position where you can hold price and it doesn't affect you, and that's great and good for you for having that structure. But if you don't sit down and have that conversation, they very easily will just say, sorry, I'm not going to help you, and they'll walk away, right? And then you're not being a partner. We talk about how important it is to be an industry partner, and that is the number. You've got to sit down and have conversation, have an honest conversation around it, open those books a little bit, right? That'll help you validate that, navigate that a little bit too. So recap. The four real big things we talked about was my IDN GPO structure. Number two was we have a contract. How do we get better penetration? There's things that we could be doing to do better, but time, so we're not getting there. Number three was strategy and direction, right? How do I get that contract awareness, marketing awareness, to get the market share, to be more engaged with those committed programs? And then lastly was really tariffs, taxes, changing in costs. So to kind of sum this up today, again, IDN Summit was a fantastic meeting. A lot to learn, a lot of new people that were met there. A lot of new strategies were shared, right? You never can learn enough when you go to these meetings from different companies. You can learn from a completely different industry partner out there that does, that's not even in your space. It can give you ideas and strategies of how you can improve something internally. So if you missed IDN Summit, there's lots of other opportunities, just to name a few, that I hope, that I can attend and hope to see you at as well. There's Health Connect partners. There's a reverse supply chain and OR strategy in Chicago later in the fall. There's the IDN Summit fall. It's in Arizona, so it's a replica of what happened in Orlando. Association of National Accounts, the ANE, right? There is a couple meetings coming up in Atlanta, Seattle, and later in Miami. This is a great opportunity for really just that, right? The national account executives to get together and collaborate and learn from each other, and hear from top leaders. And of course, AVAP for our value analysis professionals. The meeting, it will be, this fall, in Grapevine, Texas. So there's lots more opportunities to get out there and network and meet people and get FaceTime with the right people. If you can't always get them on the phone, right? Can't always get them at the hospital, look for some of these societies and these meetings to attend. And I hope to see you there. Thanks for following this week. Thanks for following MedBridge Advisors. If you're liking this content, please give us a like, give us a follow, or sign up for more information on our website.